different plants, different voices, and different ways of having conversations. It's time to get personal with plant medicine. Welcome to Getting Personal with Plant Medicine. I'm your host, Diana, and I am joined once again today by the lovely Mallory O'Connor, a psychedelic facilitator. How are you doing today, Mallory?
I'm good. I'm good. How about you?
Like we said, cold but good. So I'm so glad to have you back once again. You're such a wealth of knowledge about plant medicine, and you're such a big time plant medicine advocate. And I know you can speak to probably many different variations, but today we're just going to focus on psilocybin. Um, so let's start with how you started with psychedelics. Where did your journey begin?
Yeah, so my first experience with psychedelics was at a music festival. I started going them in my mid to late teens. Um, and I think mushrooms, I'm pretty sure, aside from like THC, which some people say it's psychedelic, some don't, um, mushrooms were definitely the first big one for me. Um, and I just fell in love with the tour scene, fell in love with music. So I followed Rat Dog and Bob Weir for probably like, I think like 13, 14 years of my life. So, mushrooms, psychedelics were a big part of that. And then through that, I moved out to Northern California and I made really good friends with a mycologist out there who really taught me about just kind of all the benefits of mushrooms that were not just a little extra enjoyment at a music festival or at a show. So that's really where I learned the medicinal properties, the healing properties, looking for edible mushrooms in the forest, finding the ones that you could eat, the ones that would kill you. And I really just learned about mycelium and kind of everything that goes with a mushroom and just started in the learning journey of mushrooms because it's always, I feel like I'm always learning more every year of my life.
That's so cool that you kind of started yours with music because, like, when I tried them in high school, I didn't have a great experience. It just it didn't do anything for me, I guess. And I, I know we know that set and setting is so important, right? I didn't know that at the time. I was just shoveling the mushroom chocolate in my mouth and saying, like, why isn't this helping? But your story just made me think about when I had them at a Jack White concert, and it was amazing. It was like, I don't know how to explain it, but it felt like I was part of the music in a sense. Like it was a different type of musical experience.
Yeah, I mean, mushrooms are really all about like connection and community. I feel like once we start to do them, and I think once you add music in with that, you're already in that community of like sound. And what is a concert? A concert is sound healing, really at its most genuine form. And then you add in a psychedelic with that, it just makes it even bigger.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now that I'm thinking, I should try that again.
Yeah.
um, so obviously, we just kind of gave a little illustration that things have changed since you began as a teenager. But can you go a little bit more in depth about how your approach to the medicine has changed since those early days?
Yeah, at first it was just for recreation, to have a little extra fun at a show or to enjoy some guy with a acoustic guitar by a campfire a little bit more. Um, so, and I didn't realize how much healing it was doing until I stepped outside of that scene and I was, eating a lot less psychedelics. I was like, wow, those really were helping me, kind of get through life. And that's really when I kind of started my own healing journey with them. I was really able to kind of open up to things beyond recreational use, Western use, tribal use, legacy use, and really the healing that comes with that. And I really learned about kind of like the woo, as we call it in the industry, the spiritual side, the original side of mushrooms, really. And then when I moved back to the East Coast, I got super fortunate to work with the people I do. They really are some of the leaders in psychedelic research. And I've been able to look at it through kind of like the clinical lens, through the MRIs, through the brain scans of how it's working. So being able to have both of those together has really been beautiful for me because I have such a well-rounded approach as to why they work now, why they were working, and also because of my own experience, I also can appreciate that sometimes mushrooms are just fun, you know, and, and that's okay too. They don't always have to be this like super clinical thing now just because they're legal. Sometimes it's just fun to eat mushrooms and go to a concert or laugh with your friends.
Yeah, I think it does kind of help with the normalization side of it to say like, oh, it is clinical now. Like people, doctors are talking about it and things like that. So I think like some people who are hesitant to try it for the fun are a
Yeah.
little bit more open because now we have these reports and we have a lot more research, and I know that you're a part of that research. So to that point, um, what led you to becoming a psychedelic integration coach? I called you a facilitator, but I guess either one goes, right?
I will be a legal facilitator in Colorado very soon. I have
Oh,
my
okay.
training there. Um, it's really just kind of getting through all the just there's a lot of training involved right now. I'm in kind of like the end stages of it. So but back to your question, what led me to working in this field? I've just organically always been really good at helping people through psychedelic experiences. I'm a very empathetic person, and I feel like people can feel that empathy a lot more when they're in an altered state. My time spent following bands, I've definitely dealt with many people in an altered state. And I've been in kind of scary altered states myself, or beautiful altered states. And all of that kind of just led me into this field. I had taken the Zendo training. Zendo is psychedelic harm reduction at music festivals. So they have a tent. If you're having a hard time, you can kind of go there and sit with somebody who knows about psychedelics rather than going to like a med tent where they're just gonna like give you some Thorazine and put you out for the night. So I trained with the Zendo project that led me into just kind of like volunteer work in the field. And through actually a cannabis event, I met somebody who worked at a school called Intertrack, and they trained mushroom facilitators. So I decided to go for that program, which was very intense and very long, and I learned a lot. And, now I'm moving towards having the facilitation license in Colorado. Right now, legally, I do kind of prep work and integration work with people before and after an experience. Um, and right now I'm working with Fireside Project also. I'm going through their volunteer program. So it really is all just, kind of my experience and being able to be that person for somebody through that experience is a really beautiful thing to be able to be a part of that healing. And I really appreciate that part of the job and being able to be there for somebody is really important.
That's awesome. I didn't even know they had that at concerts. I'm like, Thorazine, what?
Yeah, they'll usually just give you like a really high benzo to kind of help put somebody to sleep when they're going through that experience. But, sometimes we need to have difficult experiences, and not every difficult experience needs to just be like, put them out. Like, that's the hard part that we have to work through.
Yes, yes. And so to that point, so let's talk about hero dose, right? The hero dose. That's what some people call
Hmm.
it. I know that's not always terminology, but when we're talking about bad experiences or, scary ones, we're not talking about microdosing. We'll talk about that in a second, but since we're on this topic, um, what kind of advice do you think somebody should heed before they try something? Like, first of all, let's talk about what a hero dose is, because I know that can be different depending on who I'm talking to and what their viewpoint is. But like
Yeah.
something that's not a microdose, right? Like what should be considered before someone tries something like that for the first time?
Yeah, I think that if you are wanting to try a heroic dose of mushrooms, probably should have some experience with mushrooms to begin with. I would suggest, especially if you're not choosing to have a coach or to have a facilitator there. Um, just making sure that you really have thought about this and that you really do have an intention, because it does really matter to just kind of take a, giant dose of mushrooms is not always the best for somebody's headspace. Um, Mushrooms don't fix every problem, and it's not just about taking a bunch of mushrooms and then all your problems go away. If
Yeah,
we
I
could
think
just
it
do
actually
drugs and make
amplifies it sometimes depending on
right,
what
if we
kind of
could just do
therapy.
drugs and make our problems go away, this world would be a great place. But I haven't found that to work quite yet. So, and the integration portion is super important too. That's where people are really doing that work. So, from a logistical standpoint, make sure that if you don't have a coach or facilitator there, make sure that you have somebody safe there or somebody that you feel safe calling. But, depending on your heroic dose, you might not be able to work a phone when you're in an altered state. That's something to think about. Um, there's also just kind of the logistics of who should and shouldn't be doing psychedelics. There's certainly a lot of conditions where somebody should not be taking a psychedelic, whether it be mental or physical, whatever medications that you're on. And, there's very few reports of people having like these medical conditions on psilocybin. It's a relatively safe psychedelic to use, but these are things that we need to think about because could have a spiritual emergence. You could have, all of these things that a kundalini awakening that are kind of hard to understand and can kind of mess with your brain later. And then obviously we said before, and I think this is something that we talk about the most with mushrooms and psychedelics in general, is just the set and the setting. Set is kind of your place, how you're feeling. Do you feel safe? Do you have intentions? Um, Making sure that you on the inside are ready to do this. And then number two is who are you with? Um, what is the music like? The lighting, the smells? Do you have a blanket? Because, like I said, I'm very experienced with psychedelics, but the first time I did psychedelics in a clinical setting, a large enough dose, I had a hard time. And I'm glad that I had somebody there who had a weighted blanket, gave me some sage. Like that was so great for me. And then also sometimes we forget what happens on psychedelics and we'll have like a really cool experience that is important or that we want to remember. And it could just go away. And, I know for me, I'm a mom. I don't always have a full day to eat a bunch of mushrooms.
Yes.
I need those to be to stick.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I did that for that
Yeah.
exact reason. So for those who can't do the hero dose, I hear some skeptics say things like, well, what's even the point of trying microdosing if you don't feel it? What do you say to those skeptics, first of all?
So we don't necessarily have to feel something to know that it works. Like if you were taking an antidepressant, you wouldn't necessarily like feel yourself getting high from it, but you would feel it working later. And sometimes it
Good
can take
point.
a while to build up.
Hmm.
Um, there's also like it's gonna increase your neuroplasticity if you're taking a psychedelic like that. It's just not gonna be this huge, hope if you're microdosing, it shouldn't be this crazy experience.
Right. Again, some people's definitions of micro might be
Right.
some other people's definition of a hero dose.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
um, but to the point of the neuroplasticity, that's why I always say it makes my brain bendy because when I microdose, I feel like I have the ability to approach things differently and see
Hmm.
things from different angles that I normally wouldn't. I would normally react, right? And then dial it back and say, wait a minute, what could I have done differently? But when I'm microdosing, I can say like, all right, let's look at the different ways that we can approach this, and I think it also helps me just mental health wise, it helps a lot. But I think it also helps me just like to reflect on my own behavior differently as well, and see where I need to take accountability. I don't know. I can kind of see somebody else's point of view a little bit more with the neuroplasticity.
Yeah, it takes you outside your own perspective.
Yeah.
Really, you can kind of look at the full picture.
So there are a lot of different ways to approach microdosing, and I know that there are different types of stacking, right? One of our most popular episodes of all time is the stacking method mini so that we did. What is your preferred method for microdosing?
So I tend to do the Stamets protocol. I just really like Paul Stamets. My friends in California, they trained with him. Um, he's pretty much a household name for me. I take his supplements also every day.
Oh, okay.
And I also met him at the MAPS party at Psychedelic Science this last year, 2025, and his vibe just totally matched the person I would want to do mushrooms with. Like he was super kind, super knowledgeable, easy to approach. And like I said, he's been around for so long that, that's where I kind of learned everything from was people who were trained by him.
That's awesome. I have not met him personally, but my cousin has a few times, and he said basically the same thing. He's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
you should get him on the podcast." I'm like, "Oh, okay." He's like, "I'll reach out to him." Anyway, that's really cool though that you got to meet him and that you're able to like learn his methods and train under that program. Um, so, what other advice do you have for somebody who's approaching microdosing for the first time?
Um, set intentions and journal. That way you can kind of track and see your progress. Um, know your dose. There's a lot of like pre-dose um microdosing out there. Make sure that, you've tried it. Make sure somebody you know has tried it. There's nothing wrong with starting with a half dose. Um, you know, don't overwhelm yourself. I'm somebody who is super sensitive to psychedelics, so people often think that I can handle a lot more than I can handle them. There's never been a point where I've done psychedelics and it turned out, bad in the end, but there's been rough periods.
Same.
Um, yeah, really like exactly. So really make sure that you know your dose. Check in with a coach or a friend about it. Again, it's really important that if we're choosing medicine like this, that we have non-judgmental people
Mhm.
who we can talk to about it because closing yourself off, as with kind of any therapy, you're not going to get far without some sort of community. Um, and then, you know, as far as expectations, I've had people tell me when they started microdosing, more than one person, that they just cried and they cried when they first started. And part of that can be that your body's just not, just isn't doing well
I
with the
cry
mushrooms
all the
too.
time if I use anything
Yeah,
more than a microdose. It's like even the microdose, if I haven't done it in a while, I'm like, oh no, it's starting again. And it's not even
yeah,
like I'm crying, like it's not even emotional. It just like starts coming out of my eyes. And I'm like, what is
yeah,
happening?
yeah. And part of that is, just how your body works. But another big part of it is those are emotions that need to be released. And maybe that's something to explore as to like why those emotions are coming up. With psychedelics and mushrooms, they're not like regular antidepressants where it just kind of like makes everything go away. It's you kind of have to live through the experience to get the effect of it.
Hmm.
So yeah, a lot of people will find that they start microdosing that they have these other emotions where they expected to feel creative and happy and like giddy all day, but there's you got to get through the stuff before.
But they just find out they're leaking from their face all day.
Exactly. Carry your own tissues.
um, so you did touch on it a little bit about how there are some products out there that are already pre-dosed. There are quite a few options online. And it can be a little overwhelming because some of these products aren't actually psilocybin, right? Um, what advice do you have for people who are trying to figure out where they can source their psilocybin from?
Um, I would say start with people that you already know because I think that again, once we start opening up about this, you'll find a lot more people are growing their own, sourcing their own. Um, as far as things online, I don't really have a online source that I trust. I tend to be very skeptical about anything I see online. Um, you know, Certainly do not hit up that guy in your DMs with like giant bags of mushrooms. I know that we are all getting those. Like, Trapper 67 or something is the
Or
name.
buying them at the smoke shop because those usually have amanita in them, not psilocybin.
Yeah,
And I say usually, they do. They always do.
yeah,
And that
yeah.
could be a completely different experience.
I know that at Psychedelic Science, there was some companies that were there that were advertising that they had psilocybin in their mushrooms. Um, if I was going to find a source for them, I would go someplace like that and, go to a psychedelic conference and find those people that you can trust. That's really probably where you're going to find some of the people that you can trust in this field is at, the MAPS conferences.
Mhm.
I know other people do them too, and they're really great.
Yeah, there is one company I've used that has that affiliation, and they have a therapist, and you have to do like a consultation with them, and they're licensed in Oregon, so I think that's how they are able to.
Yeah, that's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, but again, it's also one of those things where if you're not really serious about it and you get the gummies or what have you, and you just pop a handful, um, the rest of your day could be really
Yeah.
screwed. I have known that to happen to someone who got the samples and was like, "Oh, let me just try the whole."
These are so good.
Yeah, yeah, yummy. Uh, they're- that's the
I
problem with
might
them,
have to start making them into chocolates because no
right?
one wants to just eat them raw.
Um, so before we end, can you tell people like how they can access your services? Like, what does it mean to hire someone like you to help them through this experience?
Yeah, so, what I always start with is just meeting a person and kind of, checking in, see if we kind of our vibes match, kind of find what you're interested in looking for through, psychedelics, if it's even something that could help you. Um, from there, we do like kind of an intake where I make sure, just kind of family history. Like I said, there are certain things that psilocybin just doesn't go with, and we would kind of talk about that. Um, from there, we would talk about preparation. Um, we would talk about what you're going into your journey with. I live in Connecticut, so I can't give medicine and facilitate your journey, unfortunately. But I can give a lot of tips as to how to do that safely. And, always, if you call me and you're in a psychedelic experience, try to help as best as I can from there. And then kind of just the after process of, you know, how did that go? What did you experience? Kind of how to integrate that experience. Um, what perspectives are you getting out of that? Just kind of talking through that and how to continue with that healing that you've gone through, and some people have psychedelic experiences and I'm still integrating psychedelic experiences from years ago, like
Oh
I'm
wow.
always like, oh, that's what that meant.
Oh,
Like,
so do you
it's,
journal about your
I do
experience?
keep a journal. I keep multiple journals. But yeah, I definitely have journals about my experiences. I have like a dream journal because I took a lot of interesting courses through my mushroom courses just about dreams and how dreams are like very psychedelic experiences. Um, so yeah, I definitely keep a journal and I encourage my clients to all keep a journal. I have journal prompts that I give a lot of my clients because I know for me that was huge. I used to get a journal and I'd be like, what the hell do I even put in this thing? Like fit my mind on this piece of paper. Um, so, the prompts I think are super helpful for a lot of people.
So do those prompts work during the process, like during the experience, or is it most like pre and post type of a thing?
Pre and post, during the experience, some people are journaling. Again, it depends on, what you take. Some people only take a very small amount. Some people want to take more. That's another thing, dosing is a huge part of it. Um, but yeah, during a journey, if we were in Colorado and I was facilitating a journal for you or a journey for you, it would be a lot of like writing down what you said. Um, again, just kind of reading the room, watching a client's breathing, watching how they're feeling, their face. Some people you can tell just don't want to be touched. Other people need a hand on their shoulder, and that can be super grounding. So just kind of knowing what people need at the time. Um, that's kind of just a skill that comes with it as well, because sometimes you just need somebody when you're
Yeah.
going through that. And it's about helping somebody through that rather than trying to stop it or end it for them. Sometimes people have to have that big experience.
Hmm. Oh, so that's so they're not coming to you for the material, right? Like you have to make that
No,
clear.
I cannot, very clear, I cannot get you mushrooms.
Yeah. I imagine you get asked a lot though. Like, where should I buy it?
Definitely, yeah.
Mhm. But really, you can't tell people. You can't
No,
give.
I can't tell you where to get mushrooms or how much to get or anything like that. Um, but I can be the support that you need surrounding that experience to make sure that it's a great experience for you.
I kind of wish they did have like some master list of places to avoid or products to avoid
Yeah,
because I think like when it says it the fruiting bodies or you know what I mean, it gets confusing and you think like, oh well, it has to be that if it says that, but it doesn't have to be that. The loophole being that they could use Amanita, which is a completely different experience
right.
or something else even more damaging. So I mean, unfortunately that's what we have to deal with in the plant medicine space pretty much across the board, right? We have to
Yeah.
deal with
Yeah, harm reduction on everything is just, it's tragic to see because so much could be avoided with basic harm reduction for really all substances, but they get pushed under the rug and
yeah.
becomes a bigger deal.
I'm glad you brought that up. Before we go, talk to me a little bit about that. Like what in your training have you learned about how psilocybin can help with harm reduction or how it can be used in harm reduction?
Yeah, so there's two great movies. Dr. Gabor Mate did them. They're called the Dosed movies.
Hmm.
That's at the first, I don't know what's the first or the second one because I can't remember how they're lined up, but he goes in with a girl who has like a really bad opiate addiction, and they use opiates to kind of help her get through that. And it's a really beautiful film. Um, you know, psychedelics are great for harm reduction, and they're great to, like we said, rebuild those neural pathways. But there's a lot more that comes with it than just, I went to the jungle and I ate mushrooms and now I came back and I don't want to do drugs anymore.
Right.
That's unfortunately not how it works. And the biggest thing that I can say to that is it's because psychedelics bring up your shit. And if you've been self-medicating for all of this time, when you have this psychedelic experience and it reminds you of that time with my mom when I had this horrible experience with her, or the fact that I don't see my dad anymore, like that's going to come up. And it is common for people to have psychedelic experiences and then relapse. And, for those of us in that space, we know that a relapse is part of recovery. So there's never like any shame in relapsing. Sometimes it just happens. But it's super important that after we have these experiences that we are working with a coach, that we are working with a therapist, that we are working with all of the people in a care team to help us through that recovery. Because also with recovery, being alone is not going to help you. You need that community. And there is such a huge community that, does speak to the power of psychedelics and recovery. The guy who started AA, he used LSD to stop using alcohol. So we do know that it works. But it's not, it's not a one trick pony. There's more you have to do.
Right. And it can bring up the reasons why you are using other substances. So you have
Right.
to, it doesn't help you just kind of ignore those causes like some other substances might. So I
Right.
can see how it could actually lead to a relapse. That's really interesting. I never thought of it like that, but that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming back on and sharing your knowledge and your experiences. Where can people find you and how can they support you?
Yeah. So the easiest way to find me is Normal Moms Club. That's my Instagram. That's what I am on TikTok. LinkedIn, Mallory O'Connor. Um, I talk mostly about psychedelics on LinkedIn because LinkedIn lets you, for now, talk about
Yeah.
psychedelics from a legal standpoint. If they stop, I hope that's not my fault. Um, but yeah, Normal Moms Club on Instagram, Mallory O'Connor on LinkedIn, pretty much any platform. If you look at me at Normal Moms Club, I'll be there, but mostly active on Instagram.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. It was so good to see you. Have a great day. Stay warm.
Thank you.
Christopher's Organic Botanicals, a family-owned and operated South Jersey business for all your kratom needs. We share the love, passion, and integrity of kratom and traditional herbal tea products. Shop small and support local businesses. We've got a wide variety of products you can check out on our website. Shop tea, powder, capsules, crushed leaves, and extracts from the comfort of your keyboard. Simply visit Christopher'sOrganicBotanicals.com. The testimonials speak for themselves.
For me personally, I use it for energy in the morning. I was hit by a car as a little kid, so I was always looking for something to get me moving a little bit better. This helps basically lubricate the joints, helps me get things going, and makes me feel a lot better.
American Kratom Association audited and approved CGMP vendor. Like us on social media and call us with any questions, 609-202-6880.
Getting Personal with Plant Medicine is brought to you by Christopher's Organic Botanicals and is produced by Your Highness Media.